Good day, everyone. This is Andrea Mitchell reports in Washington. As Russian strikes intensify across major cities in Ukraine, civilian casualties are mounting, and that massive Russian convoy, it appears to still be stalled just miles outside Kyiv. President Biden this morning on the White House South Lawn taking questions on Russia's tactics and President Zelensky's safety.
How worried are you about President Zelensky? And do you think he should stay in Ukraine, or do you think he should try to leave?
I think it's his judgment to make, and we're doing everything we can.
Ukraine is intentionally targeting civilian areas. There are over 2,000 civilians.
There they are.
On Tuesday night, the president leading a joint session of Congress to rally behind Ukraine, including a standing ovation for Ukraine's ambassador to the United States, an emotional moment, and the promise of more sanctions against Vladimir Putin.
He badly miscalculated. He thought he could roll into Ukraine and the world would roll over. Instead, he met with a wall of strength he never anticipated or imagined. He met the Ukrainian people.
Even as the president was speaking, the Ukrainian military was taking the fight to Russian troops in some areas, and the assault on Kharkiv continues. But the big concern for the Zelensky government and millions of Ukrainians is still that convoy carrying tanks and heavy weaponry. Thousands of troops. The Russian advance is slowed due to fuel and food shortages, and there's a growing refugee crisis in countries along Ukraine's western border. There's hundreds of thousands of people fleeing the violence, flood camps in Poland, Moldova, and Romania. None of them with any way of knowing if or when it will ever be safe to return home. NBC senior international correspondent Keir Simmons is in Moscow. Joining me now, Keir, we haven't heard any reaction from Vladimir Putin to President Biden's remarks yet. We also don't know if his level of frustration over the problems his military convoy seems to continue to be having.
That's right. We have heard from President Putin's spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, after the State of the Union, and he particularly referenced the claim that Russia is being shaken by the economic sanctions and said that it is hard, but that Russia will remain on its feet, and repeated those talking points that we've heard previously from the Russian government that we planned for this. Andrea, we are getting a little bit of news, some new numbers from the Russian Ministry of Defense, numbers which, because it's from the Russian Ministry of Defense, I think we have to regard with a little bit of cynicism, but still they are claiming that there are 2,870 that they have killed 2,870 Ukrainians, thousands wounded, and they go on in detail to talk about 47 planes that have been destroyed, 13 in the air, 484 tanks, 47 drones. What is also interesting, though, is to hear that the Russians talk about the number of dead and wounded on the Russian side. So this is the Russian Ministry of Defense admitting casualties. They are now saying 498 Russians have been killed and 1,597 have been wounded. I think we can assume that the Russians will be underestimating that, possibly overestimating the numbers of casualties on the Ukrainian side. Inevitably, with the fog of war, it's very, very difficult to do anything other than just repeat these numbers, and with the caveats that I just laid out. And then meanwhile, the Russians were saying through the day, Andrea, that they were ready for negotiations. We have now heard from the Ukrainians that they too are ready to have these new contact talks again later today. And the Russians saying that a ceasefire will be discussed. I think the same rules apply to that. A little bit of cynicism to be kind of regarded towards that idea that the Russians might agree to a ceasefire, but we shall see.
And they wouldn't even discuss it the other day. There's also reporting out of Kharkiv that there are terrible civilian casualties. I don't know if you've heard that from your listening post, but we're hearing, some terrible reports as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Kharkiv's second biggest city in Ukraine. And one of the really traumatizing and disturbing aspects of that, of course, as you all know, Andrew, is Kharkiv is a city that has a large population of Russian-speaking people with Russian heritage, if you like. And so it's kind of stunning to see the Russians unleash that kind of indiscriminate attack on that city. Is that what they have planned for Kiev? They certainly are making more progress, it looks like, in the south, cutting the Ukrainians off from the sea there, and that is will be a key strategic goal for the Russians. But I do think that those casualties are something that the Kremlin will not want the Russians to know about, and I think that goes to explain why we've heard in the past 24 hours that they have stopped the broadcasting of an independent radio station, stopped the broadcasting of an independent television station, even threatened Wikipedia, Russia's Russian Wikipedia, that it will get taken down.
Keir Simmons in Moscow, thank you. And Lisa Monaco is the Deputy Attorney General and joins us now on how the administration's new task force plans to track down Russian oligarchs whose real estate holdings are so well sheltered they've been almost impossible to find. Lisa, it's very good to see you again. This is a huge task. We know we've been promised that today there would be a larger crackdown on Russian oligarchs. I know there's a new task force. But these oligarchs have spent decades making sure that their asset purchases, they're mostly real estate, but also yachts, apartments, don't put them in violations of laws here in the U.S. and in other countries. So how do your prosecutors do this when there's so many legal hoops to jump through in order to even